go. Just a second, Carl. I don't think. There we go. I think we're. Hang on just a second. Let me. There we go. We're better. Good evening, everybody. Chris McDonald. Sorry for a little blip there. Good to see everybody on a McFiles Thursday night. I tell you what, we are super, super, super glad to have this dear lady with us on the phone. It's been a while. I know she's been busy with a lot of things called life, and but we have got her tonight. Carla Nicole, Culture of Life, 1972. Let me welcome her to the program. Let me congratulate you on the daughters graduating. And I tell you, you've got such a precious family, and it's hard to believe it's now going on 5 years since we last saw you in person. It was up in the Right to Life March in 2020. And it's hard to believe time has flown so by. And those girls were just teenagers when I saw you. And now they're grown in college and married and all sorts of things. And that's how fast time flies. It's good to see you tonight, buddy. How are you?
Thank you. It's so nice to see you as well. It's funny because I was looking through old pictures, and you actually, the first time that you interviewed me was in 2018.
Yes.
And then, yes, we met in 2020. Our family walked with you at the March for Life with Culture of Life. So we have been friends and battling for truth for many, many years together, and it's sure been a blessing.
But the blessing's been mine. I tell you, you're a warrior, and I appreciate the work you do with Culture of Life. And for those that don't know, Culture of Life 1972 was formed in the fact that 1972 was the last year we had life in this country before Roe v. Wade, and of course it was taken down a few years ago. But Carla, the fight remains, and I wanted to bring you on tonight to talk about this Pope. I understand you've got a lot of knowledge about him. You're from Philadelphia and that area up there. Tell us a little bit about what you know and what your guts are, how he's going to go, because it seems to be he's a mixed bag right now. There's some things he says that seems pro-life. There's other things not so pro-life. What's your thoughts on him?
Sure. So he actually is a graduate of Villanova University, which is my husband's alma mater.
Uh-huh.
And he's been serving the diocese in Philadelphia for many years. And I will tell you, the diocese in Philadelphia is a bit unconventional and can even borderline on corrupt at times. They have had big scandals in the past with little boys and children being abused in the church back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s that was being hidden actually in 2010 and 2020. But speaking of this Pope, I read a lot about him, and I'm most concerned that he is going to be leading, I think there's 1 billion Catholics worldwide.
Yes.
And I think there's something like 300 or 30 million in the United States of America. And he is pro-life. Everything that I've read is that he is very pro-life. And he does have the backing of Students for Life. And he does have the backing of the March for Life and a lot of these huge Catholic pro-life organizations. Their directors are giving him the green light. So with that, it appears that he's going to protect the most vulnerable and children inside of the womb. Other than that, I'm not so sure about anything else that he's discussing and talking about. You know that I believe that the Pope is, just a regular man, just like we all are, and that he's no more special in God's eyes. And but there are people that do follow him, and he does have a very heavy opinion. And so it is good news that he is going to be defending babies inside of the womb.
Yeah, and I'm with you 1,000,000% on that, and that's sort of what I've been saying too on our program ever since it happened. And I was very skeptical at the first. I'll just give you my take on it, and I'll let you chime in on this. Look, you mentioned the influence. It seemed to me that a lot of American Catholics did not like Francis, and they were, because this last Pope was as woke and so far to the left as you could imagine. And I think that him being so far left, and I know this is going to sound crazy, was actually a blessing because he turned a lot of Catholics off, and they went looking for true faith. And what concerns me with this Pope is that he is more mainstream. And look, at first I was like, the American thing was like almost like a Trojan horse, that they're gonna bring the views of Catholicism into America. And again, we don't knock religions here. I mean, people are welcome to worship what they want to worship. Me personally, I'm with you. He's not the divine voice of the church. He's not divine. He's not God's voice on the earth. And I take the Pope almost like a political figure. I don't take him as a spiritual figure. And he's right to his opinion, and I'm right to mine. But he does control and have the influence over billions of people on this earth. And I just see it as that the American Catholics are going to be more apt to listen to him than they were Francis. And if he does go left, it's interesting to me how that's going to turn out and how they're going to either go with him, follow him, or, where they're going to go, because, they didn't have anywhere to go with Francis. Francis pretty much made it clear he was open borders. He was pro-transgender. Yes. I mean, he could sit around and say, hey, it's okay for a man to marry a man, wouldn't blink an eye. And, and it turned off Americans. This guy, he's just like a down-to-earth guy and everything. I mean, his brother's very conservative. And I don't know if that's good or bad. I guess it remains to be seen, but I'm with you. I hope he stands strong on abortion, because that is going to be a litmus test of whether he goes down as being another Francis.
Yes, and prayerfully he's not going to go down as being another Francis. This is, as you said, his brothers are getting him up on Instagram. They're doing really cute and funny reels, making him seem very personable, very human. He loves a good cheesesteak. People can identify with him. He loves his Eagles. He loves the Phillies.
Yes.
This is a, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, a great guy that people want to love. And so I think here in the United States of America, we're all certainly rooting for him that he is going to stick to biblical values and truth, because it's interesting that, number one, this is the first American Pope, and we all know that, but that we would be able in this time to perhaps bring the Catholic Church back to biblical
exactly,
God-fearing values, and that we're all made in the image of God, and that God is the one that possesses our souls and possesses us, and we do not serve the government, and government does not tell us what gender is, and government does not tell us when life begins in the womb. These are all divine concepts that come from God, our Creator. And so these are simple, but obviously today they're very complex issues. And I pray that this Pope can bring his following back to biblical principles, and that he would stay humble and kind, and that he might be able to unify, especially in this really violent world that we're still continuing to see, despite all of the positive things that we're seeing with President Trump and Doge and Elon Musk. And there's so many things that we can celebrate right now, but we are still seeing, I'm still seeing the youth all across the world, really. And sadly, I feel like America's youth is leading with evil. And you and I have talked about this before, that if we're not transforming hearts, it doesn't really matter what laws say and who's in the White House. We have to change the conscience of a nation, which is what Ronald Reagan said in the 80s. And I think that, prayerfully, this Pope is going to be someone who is going to be courageous and stand for truth, and not stand for what the contemporary and false values are today. Not go with a lie, not go with the popular majority, but to stand alone, because you know that as Christians and as people that are battling for truth, we often stand alone, right? We're one with God a lot. And so I would really like to see this Pope stand up. And I think that when he does that, his influence is really going to be greatly used. So I just wonder if Trump and his administration being used by God to lead for light, not only in the United States of America, but the entire world. I mean, we all saw him speaking with all of the Muslim nations last week, and they gave him a standing ovation. And we see that despite what the Democrats are claiming, and despite what the liberal progressives are claiming, we currently have a president that is being used by God, and he's prayerfully being used to bring unity and not division, and prayerfully sanity, and prayerfully putting America first once again, which we've been trying to do since 2016 with his first 4 years in the White House. But we're still seeing violence, like the two precious souls that were lost last night.
Yes.
The Jewish couple that were planning on getting engaged. And so we still have a lot of work to do. And I'd like to see this Pope come out and say something against the horrific anti-Semitism that happened last night in our capital. And I know our First Lady, Melania, has already come out and said beautiful things, that we just need to unify and stop the violence. And so has the president, so many other people. At Culture of Life, 1972, our fashion brand, we are all about fighting for those that do not have a voice, primarily those in the womb. But we are also battling for those people who are Jewish and don't have a voice right now. There are voices that are louder than theirs, and there's voices that are trying to snuff them out, whether it's their country or not give them a voice here in our country. I'm really thrilled with President Trump that he has taken funding away from some of the Ivy League schools that were anti-Semitic. I think that's wonderful. I think that I'd like to see the Democrats and the liberals coming out and speaking out against the violence against these two young people that were gunned down in cold blood by this
crazy man. He's just crazy man.
Elias Rodriguez, 31-year-old, gunned down, innocent. These are two people that are. It was a male and a female. They are well-bred. They are well-read. They are well-educated. My understanding is that they were at a conference trying to unify, actually, the Middle East with their country and how they could bring peace. These are not criminals that were gunned down last night. These are peace-abiding citizens that just because they're Jewish, this person, Elias Rodriguez, came into their conference. My understanding is he was saying, long live Palestine, Palestinian, he was a Palestinian. He was pro-Palestinian. He was anti-Jewish. And so for someone like that, I really think that justice should be served swiftly to him so that this doesn't happen to anyone else in our country that is deemed less valued, whether it's an unborn life or someone who's Jewish or someone that is a pro-Trump supporter or someone who is praying outside of Planned Parenthood. In God's eyes, all of these lives are valuable. Yeah.
Couldn't agree more with that. A couple of questions for you. One about the Pope, and I want to stay on this Jewish thing too because it sort of parallels, Carla, if you think about it, it parallels the fight for the babies because, look, it's getting to the point now in this country, we're so anti-Semitic that these threats and this temperature, I've never seen it. Like I'm 60 years old, and I know 20 years ago I came into contact headstrong with the Messianic community here in our town of East Tennessee in Knoxville. And I wasn't really versed on the connection that well. I was a Christian, but I had really never really looked into the Jewish roots of the church. And through a series of events, met a Messianic leader here in our town, and him and his wife were very precious to me, and they taught me a lot of things. And I saw some things in the Messianic community that I was, concerned about as far as doctrinal goes. But for the most part, these people just want to be safe. They're just like us. They want families. But even then, and this has been 25 years ago now, I remember a lot of lies that were circulating in church circles about the Jewish nation, about Israel. It's been going on for a long time. It really goes back to the time, even before in biblical days, because Satan has tried to destroy Israel from the day it started. But I've never seen such virulent, hateful, vile comments coming from not just people like Elias Rodriguez last night, but the lies that are coming from church circles and spiritual voices is unreal. And I think you bring a great point up about the Pope. I think that this may be his first test. I think maybe this is going to be a pretty good litmus test of how he feels. Because I know this, if Francis been around, Francis probably would not have condemned the violence. And he would have probably sided with Elias Rodriguez because he was always siding with the Gazans and Hamas in the Israeli-Hamas conflict. And I think this is going to be a crossroads immediately for this new Pope. And I hope he comes down on the side of life, because life is about the babies, yes, but it's about human life. It's about adult life too, isn't it? And Jewish life.
Yes. And we know that this is a reaction to October 7th.
Yes.
You and I did a great interview back then that people may want to go and listen to. But October 7th, 2020, was it 2023 now?
Yeah, yes, it's 23. It's 23.
So almost, we're coming up on a year and a half here that Hamas was responsible for 1,200 deaths, innocent deaths. and 250 hostages. And I believe they still have many of those Jewish hostages. And so, the Jewish nation of Israel is allowed to defend themselves. They've defended themselves in Old Testament days, and they'll continue to do so now. Yes. That is their land that was given to them by God in a covenant. A covenant is unbreakable. It is more stringent than any contract. That is their land, and it should be given to them. And my belief in reading the Bible is that as followers of Christ, we should be defending the Jewish nation and the people. I know that Jewish people tend to be anti-biblical. They're certainly anti-New Testament. I know many of them that tend to be very liberal and progressive in how they vote and how they think about life and how they think about the LGBTQ. But we are looking at the nation as a whole, and they are God's people. And that is a covenant that will not be broken. So we are to pray for that nation. We are certainly to be pro-Jew and pro-Israel. We are not to be anti-Semitic.
That is so true.
Yes, and I was sharing with you that I went to Cheltenham High School, which is outside of Philadelphia. It's in the suburbs, and we had a large Jewish population there. So I went to more barn bat mitzvahs in the 80s and the 90s than I went to any baptisms, and I grew up Baptist. And we walked into Cheltenham High School every day, and in the main cafeteria, there was a very large picture of Benjamin Netanyahu, which, to my understanding, may still be there today because he did graduate from Cheltenham High School in 1967. And indeed, he went to high school with my father and my Uncle Ray. Both of them remember him, that he was a very nice person. He was involved with the chess club and soccer and the debate club. But interestingly enough, the reason that he moved to Israel is that he thought that, and this is going back to the 60s, mind you.
Yes.
He thought that the Jewish population in the suburbs outside of Philadelphia was too worldly, too secular, which I can't speak to the 60s and the 70s, but I'll tell you that in the 80s and 90s, when I was in high school, I would tell them what the Ten Commandments were about. I would tell them Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. They did not know what they believed. And so I could see that he returned to Israel to try to be a leader, not only politically, but also religiously. And you know that my understanding, because actually a lot of Jewish organizations follow Culture of Life on Instagram, and we have a lot of connections with Jewish organizations in Israel that are very pro-life. They are protecting innocent life in the womb, and we have done giveaways with them, and we've told them that we're praying with them. It's been a real ministering opportunity for our small business and for our family. But Jews that believe in the Old Testament understand that taking a life inside of the womb is wrong.
That's right.
They understand that, they understand their Old Testament. And they understood that, Queen Jezebel was giving infant sacrifices to Moloch. And this is, remember, abortion and infanticide and killing babies has been happening since ancient times. It's been happening. It has always been God's people that have been defending life, because we understand that God is creator of life. And we don't believe, like the Queen Jezebels of the world, that we are gods and that we can choose who lives and who dies. So I want to share that just for that alone, the nation of Israel, because the nation of Israel is pro-life, not the individual neighbor that you may know that happens to be Jewish, but the nation of Israel. And of course, they don't understand that our Messiah has come, and that is biblical. But that's a whole other route that we can go down.
But I will interject something there, right there, Carla. Yes. They don't, but one day they will, and that's the thing. Yes. And look, we know biblical prophecy is not painting a pretty picture of what's ahead for that nation, but Paul said in Romans that we have got to provoke the Jew to jealousy, meaning that we as Christians, if we say we're Christian and we believe Jesus and we truly know Jesus, we want to see all men saved. Paul himself said it. He said, look, they're enemies for the gospel's sake, but what that word enemy means is that they are not going to be a believer, as you just beautifully said, in the Christ because they rejected Christ. However, that's not going to be their state forever. Look, buddy, the bottom line is America's not mentioned in Bible prophecy. Israel's all over Bible prophecy. Israel's going to be standing when all this is over with. And I shared this morning, we have a morning Bible study that we do, and this sheep and goat judgment of Matthew 25, if you look at the context of that judgment, he's going to separate the sheep from the goats based on their treatment of his brethren. And his brethren is Israel. And I just don't understand how people that say they believe in Jesus, believe in our Savior, Jesus Christ, who is Jewish, how they can be anti-Semitic. I don't see how you reconcile the two. And I think the Lord's what he's doing right now. He's in a spiritual sense before this actual judgment of the nations takes place. I think he's separating the sheep from the goats right now. And I think that it's in the hearts of people. You either love God's people or you don't. And God's people include the Jews too. They may be away from him tonight, but they're not going to be away from him forever, Carl. They're coming home. They're coming home to Christ.
That's right. And for those of us who are authentic followers of Jesus Christ, we should be leading with love.
Beautiful.
With God's chosen people. And we should be leading and defending and speaking out, not only for life inside of the womb, but at this moment in time for the Jewish people as well that are being persecuted here, actually all over the whole entire world. They've always been persecuted all over the entire world, but it used to be a sanctuary here for them as it was for all people of a variety of religions. But as of late, the demonic liberal movement that worships government and worships self without realizing that they're actually worshiping demonic forces, it makes it an unsafe place for those of us who are Christians, those of us who are Jewish, Catholic, anyone that is standing up for truth and logic and biblical principles. And we have to consider that we do have about 3.5 years of a Trump administration, which may it's giving us a reprieve. However, we are seeing that the hate is continuing to grow.
Yes.
People need to understand that. Culture of Life's Instagram page and Facebook page, we just had to take a reel down yesterday because we were getting so much hate for it over the last 3 days. And we had a team meeting and I said, what is going on? I thought that, Jeff Bezos and Zuckerberg, and I thought, some of these people, were kind of, just leading that now we have freedom of speech again. So Culture of Life is allowed to say that life begins in the womb, and we're allowed to say these things that, my goodness, for 4 years when Biden was in office, we had constant hate. You have to consider for a business, it tends to be a waste of time and resources when all day long I have a volunteer is just blocking and stopping and reporting all of this hate that's coming to our Culture of Life Instagram page, to the point where we did have to take this reel down. And our team said, you know what, we have to understand that as the light is getting brighter, God is using the Trump administration. I mean, I've been watching revival happen all across, Mar-a-Lago, the White House. Everybody's praying in these places.
Right. Pete Hicks
the devil
yeah.
sees that, and his people see it, and they hate that, and they hate it. And who do they attack? They attack followers of Jesus Christ on social media. They're cowards, and that's where they attack us. But
was your reel about Israel, or what was your reel about? Abortion, or was it about Israel?
It was. It was about. No, it wasn't about. No, it was not about Israel. It was about being pro-life.
Okay.
Defending life inside of the womb. And it was my daughter and I talking on a reel. We started a podcast recently. It's called Timeless Style. traditional values. So we have 15 minutes where we talk about timeless style, how you should be presenting really well to present yourself as Christians. We're not talking about being vain, but we are talking about presenting yourself in a clean way that you are representing your Savior, you're representing yourself, you're representing the United States of America. You're not making other people around you angry or uncomfortable in how you present yourself in your dress. And so people have really been very receptive to this because there's a lot of people that are dressing very rebelliously, very angrily, very immodestly, and it's really very ugly today. And then we have 15 minutes where we do traditional values, and we talk about, is it right to write a thank you note? Can you text a thank you note? Little things like this that we think our generation doesn't know. It's been lost. And these are just little civil manners.
Right.
That, when we used to be a Christian nation in the 50s, this was just how you did things.
We used to say, absolutely. We used to say thank you, didn't we? And we used to be grateful for everything. And we used to say yes, sir, and no, sir, and yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, and respect our elders.
That's right. That's right. And you didn't walk around with a grudge on your shoulder. You didn't speed up when someone was walking across the street. And you respected people's opinions.
So true.
And yes, you respected your father in the house and your mother in the house. And that's because they were respectable. And so the point is that this is what our podcast is about. And so we had a little clip from that. And I'll tell you what, it started out with a little bit of heat. And then eventually, they just started calling us racist, and I said to my team, we're not going down this. Block it, because there's no arguing with these people. They have unbridled hate. It turns into violence, and we are just about selling as many articles of clothing as we can so that we can give back as much to our crisis pregnancy centers as we can. So, my point in sharing that story with you that just happened yesterday is that please do not rest on your laurels right now as Trump is in the White House for 4 years. We really still have quite a lot of work to do.
Yes, we do.
And we have a lot of work to do to make sure that in 2028 we get someone else in there that is going to defend freedom of speech and biblical values and right and wrong and life. And defend Israel, and defend our right to carry, and defend my 3 daughters' right to play on an athletic team that has no biological males. I mean, it's really insane that we still even have to talk about this.
I agree. No, I think that's great. Folks, you're watching a very special live McFiles Thursday night early bird special. I got my dearest friend, Carla Nicole, with his Cultural Life 1972. Buddy, it's hard to believe we've known each other 7 years, and, you've been one of those guests. We've had guests come and go on the network for that long. We've been going almost 8 years, and thank God that you've been one of those that have stuck with us, and you've always answered the bell when we've called, and I really deeply appreciate the work you've done, and I encourage the ladies, especially, COL1972.com. They've got some great fashion ideas for you to show your support for the pro-life movement, and it is a culture of life. And Carla and this whole family have been fighting this fight, and I have been so honored to be in this fight with them. I will never forget that day that we were walking down that road in D.C. It was freezing cold that day. I remember that. And I remember us being packed in like sardines. We couldn't even move 2 feet one way or the other. But I'll never forget you telling me that, it's a shame that the Protestant world has outsourced this fight to the Catholics. And it's nothing personal. I was at this last Right to Life March in January. I hadn't been since the last one I went to was with you, and I had not been to D.C. in 5 years. And I felt led to go this year, and it was the same thing. I guarantee you it was 98, probably to 2, maybe 95 to 5. I'll give the Protestants a little bit of a heads up maybe, but there was very, very few Protestant groups there being represented. It was all Catholic, and I just, I pray to God, as I said, that this current Pope, this American Pope, turns out to be pro-life. I do want to ask you a question, and this is maybe a hard one to answer, but before I do that, let me just say something to our audience. Folks, if you got a question for Carla relating to tonight's program, and it's intriguing that the Pope is from Villanova. That's where you went to college, and then your dad. Did you say your brother went to high school with Bibi Netanyahu, or you? Who?
Yes.
Yeah.
My father and my uncle.
Father and the uncle. How about that?
Graduated from Cheltenham High School.
How about that? That's intriguing. If you got a question about anything we're talking about tonight, please put it in the chat. I'll ask her while we got her on the phone. Did you find it strange? This is another small red flag I've got about Pope Leo, and maybe this is just the conspiracy part of Chris. I'm trying to get rid of that. I'm trying to not be one of these looking for a boogeyman under every bush, and thing. But you know, when we were covering the death of Francis, there was about 6 names that the media put out there immediately, and I made the comment on my show. I said, "Do not be surprised if these names mean nothing. That there's somebody in the wings that they've got that they are already thinking about doing, and you're not going to know about it until the day of the selection." Because when this guy was elected, nobody had him on any list that I saw on the internet. There was one person that came up with something 2 weeks before he was announced that there was a possibility that he could be elected or selected. And it's amazing to me how that no one really knew about this man until 3 weeks ago when he was selected Pope. Did you find that strange at all? Or did you think that's just the way that they do things in the Vatican? It's just they keep things secret to the belt. They put these names out there to sort of be a Trojan horse in itself, make us chase those names down, get all the savvy. Because there was a Cardinal Sarah that was very conservative. He was a black man. He was from Africa. And common wisdom would have said if they were going to go in a direction of conservatism, he would have been the man because he was probably more pro-life than even Leo is.
Interesting. So I will tell you that we all know the Vatican is very secretive. My goodness, they're their own country, right?
That's the truth.
They have their own postal service. That is true. They are the poster children for secretive. So and certainly there are bizarre things happening every day. I mean, we can't make these things up. And when I see something like this happen, there's all these names, and then this person is the Pope it seems like he's out of nowhere. How did he get to become the next Pope? That's when I just go back to my faith and say that God is sovereign. We know that he does put kings into their kingdoms, and he puts people in leadership, and God knows and sees who this person is. And, that's where we just have to trust.
Yeah.
There's not much else that we can do in these situations, and continue to pray that the Lord will just intervene, and that we'll continue to stay strong and fight this spiritual battle that we've been in since, Adam and Eve.
Without a doubt. I do want to ask you a question before I forget it about these South African farmers. I've been really following this story with some intense interest as well, because it's so strange that it's like the immigration issue turned on its head. It's amazing how the media is screaming that we are wrong and we are racist and we are fascist, we're inhumane for wanting to deport criminals, rapists, murderers, traffickers, drug dealers, assaulters, rapists. The list could go on. These people that are not even here legally. You mentioned the college students. Marco Rubio got into a brush up with Van Hollen on the Hill just yesterday, and also Jaya Paul was trying to make some kind of moral argument that we were violating the free speech of these college students. And I've got news for Jaya Paul. If they're not here as a citizen, they got no rights to free speech. You're here as an invitation. This is not the Motel 6 America. This ain't the Hampton Inn. You're here on our dime. You're here on our invitation. And Marco Rubio, as Secretary of State, he's got every legal right to revoke a visa. And if you're over here fomenting violence and fomenting insurrection and fomenting rebellion and burning school property down and beating up Jews on campuses, and you're not here, you're not even supposed to be here, I tell you what, you're going to get your carcass on a one-way trip back to your homeland and put in jail. But then you look at this situation, Carl, with the white African situation and these farmers that are being slaughtered, just literally slaughtered. And Trump just basically put it in the face of this Ramaphosa, I can't even think his Ramaphosa. His name is the president of South Africa. He was up here yesterday trying to convince Trump there was no genocide going on. And Trump played in the videos, and you could, if a black man's face could turn red, it turned red. But I just find it so hypocritical that the argument that the media makes for keeping the gangbangers and the terrorists and the thugs here, they have now turned that argument around and saying we as Americans are racist for allowing white people to come into our country that are being persecuted by a black regime in South Africa. I've never seen anything like this in my life, that they went from pro-immigration to now, no, we don't need to let the white folks that are getting slaughtered and these farmers coming into America from South Africa. I find that so hypocritical and so hilariously funny, but not in a ha-ha way. It makes me want to puke.
No, that's right. That's right. And the left is hypocritical.
Yes.
And the left is evil, and they are demonic.
Demonic.
They are dark. They hate life. They hate all life. And your point is very valid. And again, you're talking about they constantly want to defend rapists and criminals. But are they screaming out about the 2 innocent Jews?
No. I hadn't heard a thing today.
Last night.
Nothing.
So, yes.
Nothing.
And so we are on the side of truth. We are on the side of righteousness. We are on the side of courage. And we just have to keep speaking and sharing in our circles. And, I'll say a rallying charge for running for office, running for school board. Don't let these demonic-minded people get to your kids, indoctrinate your kids. I mean, it's you know that I'm a homeschool mom. You know that all of my children just graduated 2 weeks ago from Liberty University. We would not allow them to go to any other university in this country unless God said, don't send them to Liberty, because we do not want our children to be indoctrinated and harassed and terrorized by people who think that gender does not exist. Life does not exist unless they tell you it does. Marriage does not exist. Being able to defend ourselves and speak out for truth is not worthy. I'm not sending my kids to schools like that.
Right.
So parents who are grandparents, aunts and uncles, it is your responsibility. You're responsible for the next generation. Raise them up well.
No, I'm with you there. Dennis Floyd has got a question. Dennis, I'm not sure me or Carla, either one, can answer this. He says, how did they exactly go about choosing a pope? What are the qualifications? Look, that's a Catholic Church thing. And Dennis, that's something I'd probably have to send. I'd have to send that one up to the Vatican and get a questionnaire. I'm sure there's a process. I do know that it's mainly, it's almost like an election. There's these cardinals that get together and they put names out there and they have so many ballots. It was interesting. It didn't take long to elect this guy, because usually it takes
weeks.
If
it has to do with money. I wonder.
Could be money. Absolutely. That's a good question.
Maybe these popes are great fundraisers. Maybe they have a war chest in their churches. No, I'm being serious.
No, I know you are, and I know.
Anyone, but
no, you're right.
The Catholic Church is a multi-billion-dollar business.
It has become a business, my friend. It has become a business. All right, folks, I don't see any questions. Carl, I'm going to get you to just talk. I'm going to talk a few more things with you. I'm going to let you go on. What did you think of the, we've not talked really a lot since Trump's been elected. I tell you, his cabinet has been, I've never seen a cabinet like this in my life that has been put together that are rock stars. And I think that I saw a report the other day. I read something the other day about that, it's amazing there's been no leaks this go around. Remember the first term, every other day, things were getting leaked to the media. He had betrayers, he had traitors in his cabinet. I think Mike Pence was a part of a lot of it. I do. I think Pence was leaking stuff, his people, to the press. They couldn't stand Trump. And J.D. Vance has been a stalwart vice president. I'm proud of that young man. Yes. And then we have this bombshell story now that Joe Biden was basically cognitively impaired and I hate to use this word. I'm not using this word in any kind of disrespect. You basically had a vegetable running the government. And the questions now are coming out of who was part of this auto pen. I heard Anita Dunn, this communist, the one that was praising Mao Zedong under Obama, could have been running the country. Hunter Biden, his son, at the center of all this Hunter Biden laptop. There's stories out there circulating tonight without, again, confirmation. We're just saying what we were hearing in circles around the media that it was Hunter Biden, of all people, that was telling his daddy and running the shots and telling the staff what to do. And Jill was certainly there too, but it was maybe even Hunter more than Jill. And how do we reconcile this? And I just think that this is my opinion. I'm going to get your opinion on it and we'll wrap it up. Unless there are arrests and some accountability for the last 4 to 8 years of what they tried to do to Trump his first term, and then what they turned and did to the country in Joe Biden's term, I think they're going to do it again. Because at some point, God forbid, but I know that in my heart of hearts, this American electorate gets very restless. It's just the way Americans are. We get excited about a new regime and a new administration. They come in, we get impatient and say, well, let's try the other guys again now. And they will go back and put these people in power, and God help us when they do. But unless we get some accountability, this stuff that they did to us will happen again and worse the next time, I believe, if we don't put some folks in jail for it.
I agree with you. I think I may still be the only person that wants to hold Trump to his word. Remember in 2015, he said that he was going to lock Hillary Clinton up.
Absolutely.
Because of 30,000 emails that she lost for Benghazi. So I still think that people should be going to jail for the Clinton years.
Come on, buddy.
I absolutely believe people should be going to jail for the Biden years. Yes, I agree. It was horrifying and shocking that we had the leader of the free world, Biden, who, to me, from day one, even before, during his campaign season, he looks like he was a man that was very ill. That was
absolutely.
Losing his wits.
Absolutely.
And so I was very confused. I believed that there was a lot of illegal activity that happened that placed Biden in the White House. I don't believe that he rightfully should have been there. And I do believe that people should be going to jail for the Clinton years as well as the Biden years.
Totally agree.
Because I agree that if they do not get punished, it's going to be way worse somewhere down the line. And I pray it's not 2028 because I agree with you that Americans get very fickle. I already hear people that were Trump supporters saying, oh, poor me with the tariffs. I'm so concerned about the tariffs. Buckle down.
Buckle down.
We are in a war.
Come on, buddy.
You know,
come on.
Stop getting your nails done. Stop the gym membership. Stop all of your cable television. Stop leasing the cars. I don't know what you need to stop paying for, but this is America. We're in a fight for the United States of America, for our economy.
And our children.
We don't want to be dependent and beholden to these communist, demonic countries like China and Russia and the Middle East. Trump is doing the right thing.
Amen.
Come on.
Amen. No, I'm with you 1,000,000%. And look, you're talking 2028. I'm concerned about 2026. Because if the Democrats, for God forbid, for some reason grab the House, Carla, all this stuff stops with Trump. They're going to impeach him. They will halt everything that he's doing, and it will come to a grinding halt. And I think that's one of the reasons why he's going so fast right now and trying to get everything done. And he's working at a lightning speed. But the Congress that he's got has got to step up to the plate and codify this stuff into law to where even if they do get control in 26, God forbid, that these things will be harder to take down. I do want to ask you a question about the book with Tapper, and I'll just ask you about a question about the media in general. And I think the media is as evil as any crooked politician. I think they're part of the problem in this country, and I think some of them need to be in jail myself. But do you think they're really remorseful about what they did, hiding Joe Biden's decline, or do you think it's one of these things they got caught, they got exposed, and now they're running for cover, trying to convince the American people that we need to trust them in their judgment of what they're telling us? I don't no more believe they're remorseful than I believe Chris McDonald looks like he's 20 years old and got black hair, which he don't.
No, they are absolutely not remorseful at all. And they're going to continue to lie to the American people. And I think that this is why you see all these podcasts popping up, whether it's Joe Rogan and others. I don't get any of my news. I don't even get my news from Fox anymore.
I don't either.
I get my news from podcasts like yours. And I listen to, podcasts during the day that I find trusted. And I would also just, with a good podcast and reading your Bible, I encourage people to go back and read the Old Testament specifically. Like, really continue to look for truth. Because like you said, there are a lot of conspiracy theories, and some of them are correct and some of them are incorrect. It's really a time to be very discerning and very wise for the sake of our families, right? You know that I'm a big family girl, in that if we had really, really strong families that were being led by solid parents, solid grandparents, families are the building block to a strong community and a strong nation. We have very weak families in the United States of America right now, which makes very, very weak communities and makes very, very weak nations. And it's such a joy and a pleasure for me to see right now. I believe that, yes, Trump's been divorced multiple times. I don't care about that. He is a very strong father. He must have done something really well in how he raised his children, because there are no Hunter Bidens in his family. And I believe that they cherish their children. They cherish their grandchildren. It was a joy to hear him say when he was at the conference in the Middle East, I need to get home now to see my grandchild. Yeah. Of course, he's speaking about Tiffany Trump's new grandchild. These are people that are not perfect. None of us are, by the way. But they love their families, they love their children, and they love this country, and they know that we are the greatest country still on the earth. And we have an opportunity right now to defend the voiceless, to defend the Jews, and to do the right thing.
Couldn't have said it better, buddy. Listen, our time has slipped on us, but I want to thank you so much. I hope we can get you on soon, and I want to wish you wish you girls the best for me. Give them a big hug from their quote-unquote Uncle Chris. And tell them that we love them. God bless you, friend. We'll be in touch with you, and have a great night. Thank you for being with me on the McFiles on this Thursday night.
My pleasure. Can I give a quick shout out to use code MEMORIAL as in Memorial Day for 40% off your entire purchase at CLO1972.com.
And I encourage our people to visit there. I will see you soon in person, and looking forward to fellowshipping with you. And God bless you, friend. And I hope you come back on as often as you can this year. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Take care. Bye-bye now. Carla Nicole, everybody. Put some fire in that house. A great woman of God right there, and a great patriot, a great fighter for life, and a great patriot of this country. And her and her family are precious. Those girls are grown now. 2 of them are getting married, and they just graduated from Liberty University, and we're proud of them. And I had the privilege of meeting this family back in 2020, and they're just precious people and friends of the McFiles. And I didn't realize it was 2018. I wanted to say maybe it was later than that when we first had her on. And at that time, when Carla came on, I was shocked she came on, because she was being interviewed by every conservative outlet in America. She was on Fox, and she was a big name. She still is. I know with family ties, she's not been able to do as many interviews, but we were very, very honored to have her on then, and we're honored to have her on tonight. And we hope you got a lot out of this. We've got about 6 minutes in this early bird to go. If you've got a question for her, put some fire in that house, by the way, if you enjoyed her. We're grateful for you, and so forth. And we appreciate you all being with us tonight. And if you've got a question for anything that you've heard tonight, it was a great guest, Tim. Good to see everybody over on Facebook. Pat and Deb Dolan's in the house. Good to see you guys. Jimmy Lemons. Paulina Valdez, good to see you. Dennis, good to see you, buddy. Dennis, Didn't see your question until we signed off this morning in the Bible study. We're going to ask your question first thing tomorrow. Deborah Ann Linger, our dear friends from Ohio. Good to see you. Hope to see you guys in Dalton when we come back in July up there. And good to see all of our Facebook crowd tonight. Jenny Castellanova, Lucy Shoemaker. Good to see you, dear. And Tim Neal Sr., my buddy from Southwest Ohio. Good to see him in the house tonight. All you guys, we just are grateful for you and grateful for you YouTubers. Any questions now before we sign off? Now, we're going to be back here in about an hour. Maybe it's 9 o'clock right now, probably about 30 minutes or so. We will come back 30 to 45 minutes. We got a new show, and we may have James Akers back on tonight. We're going to talk about this Jewish thing. Folks, it's a tragedy what happened in Washington, D.C. last night. It is an absolute, it's a travesty. It is an absolute travesty what happened. I sort of predicted it this morning. There's been nothing but silence. Nothing but silence in Christian circles. I've not seen any Christian voice in America come out and condemn this violence. Not that I know of. Not that I know of. You know, they may have, and I'm waiting. I'm holding my breath. But I've not heard anybody come out and say this is a terrible thing. I want to make it clear where this network stands. Hamas is the perpetrator. Hamas is the terrorist. They're the ones that invaded Israel on October the 7th. They're the ones that raped, murdered, and killed women, raped, murdered, and killed men, put babies in ovens. They're the ones that kidnapped families, destroyed families, cut people's throats in cold blood, launched air attacks, launched a land attack against Israel, unprecedented that Israel had ever seen since the Holocaust of 1938. Hamas is the perpetrator. Israel is the victim. Israel is not killing babies. And this UN mandate, we talked about it on the radio show today, the UN issued a statement that 14,000 babies were going to die in Gaza tomorrow in the next 2 days if Israel wasn't stopped from their Gaza incursion. Let me tell you something, UN. It wasn't Israel that killed those 14,000 babies, and 14,000 babies is nothing but blood libel. That's just a blood libel lie. And you people that are out there telling the world that Israel's the problem for every problem in the world since they've been created. And by the way, some of you need to go back to kindergarten. Israel wasn't even formed 6,000 years ago, and I've heard that because, you know, every problem the world's had for 6,000 years is the problem of the Jews. Well, the Jews haven't been here for 6,000 years. Maybe you need to go back to kindergarten where you belong and learn a little bit about history and understand your time frame. If you're going to be anti-Semitic, at least don't be dumb too. Pick a challenge, okay? Pick a fight. Be anti-Semitic. If you're going to be anti-Semitic, at least be smart, okay? Don't be stupid and ignorant in two, because it's unbecoming both. Both are unbecoming. But at least be smart, okay? And let me make it clear to you tonight. Nothing would have happened to the Gaza Strip. Bibi Netanyahu said it today. We're going to play a clip on this newscast tonight. He said it. You know, the world's been screaming for a Palestinian state. They already had a Palestinian state in place in the Gaza. It was basically a trial run. Gaza has been in charge. The Arabs have been in charge of the Gaza Strip since 2005 when the late Ariel Sharon, and thanks to the dumb stuff of George W. Bush Jr., turned it over to the Arab world, who basically put Hamas over it. That's been over it for 20 years and turned it into a blowhole. So they've had a Palestinian state. And guess what it brought Israel? Did it bring Israel peace? No. It brought Israel the worst attack it's had since its existence in 1948. So let me explain to you tonight who's the victim and who's the perpetrator. The terrorists are. The terrorists are not Israel. Israel is not committing a genocide. It was Hamas that's doing this. This situation that happened last night in Washington, D.C. was nothing but an act of cold-blooded anti-Semitic murder. And you people out there that are spewing this anti-Semitism on your pages and your Telegram pages and your rooms, and you're putting this crap out there like it's gospel, you are going to be held accountable by Almighty God for doing it. The blood of people like this couple is going to be on your hands, because all this anti-Semitism is doing, folks, is stoking anger and stoking hatred and stoking the idea in people's heads that it's okay to shoot Jews. Just like the South African government that believes that it's okay to kill whites and kill farmers. I wonder where they get that idea from. The source of it all is Satan. And if you want to side with Satan, you go side with Satan. But let me just say this as an parting shot tonight. If you're going to be anti-Semitic, at least don't be stupid and ignorant, as many of you are that are putting this stuff out there that's nothing but libelous lies. Please be smart. And you say, well, that's a little rough, McDonald. That's all right. I don't mind being rough. Because it's like I read somewhere today, my heart is broken tonight, but my blood is boiling. My blood is boiling because the seed of what went on in Washington, D.C. last night has been being, the temperature is rising. It's just what happened to President Trump last July. All this anti-Trump rhetoric, and Trump's a threat, Trump's a threat, Trump's a threat. What do you think it's going to do to these crazies? What do you think these crazies are going to do? And this man was nothing but a crazy. We're going to play some video tonight of the group that he's part of. They've been screaming and passing lies. And, I understand that somebody possessed of the devil can believe it. What I can't understand is so-called American prophets and so-called American Bible teachers and so-called American pastors and so-called Christians that claim they know God to be believing this stuff and posting it like it's right. That's what I don't understand. I don't have an answer for that. Other than they're full of the devil, and they're not true prophets, and they're not true Bible teachers, and they're not true Christians. Because if you don't believe, let me change this, if you believe in Jesus as you claim you do, and you hate the Jews, it's sort of an oxymoron, because Jesus is a Jew, and he is from the line of the tribe of Judah, and his brethren after the flesh is the nation of Israel. And he is going to come back one day. And yes, they rejected him. Yes, they were the instrument. And yes, they crucified him. And yes, that he was crucified inside their gates in Jerusalem. And yes, they have paid a heavy price for it throughout the centuries. And they are going to pay a heavier price as we go forward into the prophetic strain of Revelation and Daniel and those things that have been prophesied to come. They are going to accept a false Messiah. They're going to accept a false Christ. And they're going to realize they played the fool too late. And Zechariah says that literally 2/3 of them are going to be basically lost during this time of great tribulation on this earth. But let me remind the Gentile world something. If you think for a second that God's just going to let the Jews pay a price for what they've done, you're a fool. Because the Gentile world is going to face this same judgment and face this same weighing of the balance of God's scales of judgment and justice. And all the nations of the world that are in rebellion tonight are going to come under his accountability. It's not just going to be Israel. But let me remind you something tonight. And I'm in McDonald's South tonight, and I don't have my wonderful Israeli-American flag with me. But let me remind you of something tonight. When the smoke clears and all this is over, Israel's going to be the one left standing. America's not even found in Bible prophecy. America's not even mentioned in the narrative of what the prophetic strain is coming. Now, are we going to be involved in things to come? Possibly. Possibly. I don't know where America will be. I know where Israel's going to be. They're going to be saved. And they're going to be standing with Christ in the millennial. And they will be restored to their place of where God has wanted them to be for nearly 4,000 years. It's where God wanted them to be when the nation was divided, and the nation's never been right since. It really goes back to me to the wilderness when that generation of unbelief did not want to go into that promised land, and God killed that generation off. Israel has been in a tailspin ever since. There have only been a few moments in her history, when you get down to it, that she's been righteous. But before we Americans sit back in our seat of judgment and our seat of know-it-all, let me tell you, let me remind you of something tonight. There's been a very few times that America's been right. There's been a very few times that any nation on this earth has been right. Why? Because this earth is fallen, just like man is fallen. Our leaderships are fallen. Governments are fallen. Governments are corrupt. It's not just Israel's government that's corrupt. It's not just Israel's nation that is corrupt. There's not just a deep state in Israel. You people that are out there claiming that the Rothschilds found Israel, read your Bible. No, God founded Israel, neighbor. He changed Jacob's name to Israel a long time ago, long before the Rothschilds were thought about. They were not formed as a nation in 1948. They were reformed as a nation in 1948 after wandering on this planet for nearly 2,000 years without a nation, without a homeland. So how does the sovereign God do that? How does he keep a group of people together, preserve them on the earth through Holocaust after Holocaust, through program after program, through after expulsion, through every effort to destroy them. How does a sovereign God keep a people together? And then in one miraculous miracle, not just the 21st century, but if you go back to it, neighbors, the miracle of all time, short of the resurrection of Jesus Christ, how does God reform a nation that has been scattered and wandered over the earth for 2,000 years without a homeland? Only God. Only God. So, let me end my early bird special with this tonight. If you're going to be anti-Semitic and be ignorant, pick a fight. Be one or the other. Don't be both. Don't be both. But you better repent of what you're thinking and saying. It's a disgusting disgrace to the church. It is an absolute disgrace that church people, if you are out there and doing this at all and believing any of this mess about Israel tonight, you should be ashamed of yourself. But many of you are not, because you have been controlled by a seducing spirit and you've been controlled by religious spirits, and you have literally bit into the very spirit that caused that killing last night in Washington, D.C. And the blood of these people are on your hands. You don't have to believe that. When you get upset, you can snort, and jump up and down. But I stand by what I say. These opinions are mine. And I'm going to let you go, at least for now. I will amen myself on that. I'll amen myself. Put some fire in that house. Put some fire in that house. We're grateful. We are grateful that you are here with us tonight. We're grateful that you've been with us. And we'll be back shortly with a newscap. Won't be long on the news night. We'll have a longer show tomorrow night with the news. I hope you have a wonderful night. Thank you, Carla Nicole, for being with us. Did you enjoy her? She was great, wasn't she? I'll see you back here shortly. May the Lord bless you tonight. Chris McDonald out on a McFiles Thursday night early bird. Be back.